Welcome back, guys. So we are over here at the stove. I'm going to be teaching you the most important thing you're going to need to know, which is how to cook proteins. This is going to apply to all those meat eaters out there, or pescatarians, which is awesome too. So, I don't know why it's awesome too. So we are going to be working with beef mince, chicken breast, and some salmon. I'm going to teach you how to cook all these ingredients sort of as one. You can just learn how to cook them properly, how to cool them properly, and this will make for your whole cooking experience a lot easier, because I know how often people sort of overcook chicken, they don't know how to cook the fish, or they just, have really fatty, watery beef mince. So let's get into it. What we are going to do for the chicken breast is poach it. I really prefer to poach chicken breast because it holds its moisture, and then you can add any flavor to it as you want. But because when you would cook chicken in a pan, it can tend to go dry, and then when you reheat it in a microwave, it's often just quite bland. Whereas if you poach it, you can keep the breast whole, and then you can season it as you go, and it's pretty versatile this way, as you can add spices and seasoning as you wish. So I've got a pot of water boiling here. We want it rapidly boiling. We are going to drop the chicken breast in, and the water will come down. It will stop rapidly boiling, because you will be poaching more than one chicken breast. I am showing you one right now, but you will be able to fit multiple breasts into the pot. So turn it down to a sort of low heat. You want to see it just simmering lightly. You don't want it bubbling crazy. You don't want it overflowing. This is how you overcook the chicken, and the protein sort of just comes out. You'll see this white residual, protein coming to the surface, which you don't want to see. So while the chicken is cooking, we are going to be doing the beef mince. First of all, depending on what type of beef mince you're using, you shouldn't need to add any oil to beef mince. Beef mince tends to be higher in fat unless you're looking for a leaner option. And if you are looking for a leaner option, you're definitely not going to be adding oil to it. So opt for just, I think, a regular beef mince. Preferably, for me with beef mince, is organic. I'm not a huge person that has to have organic food, but however, beef mince is one of those things where you don't actually know what's in it. So I prefer to get organic beef mince, as you have more certainty of the actual percentage of fat in the mince, whereas when you get random beef mince, anything could be minced in it. So we're going to turn our pan on to sort of a medium heat, and we're going to put the beef mince in. At this point, we're just going to season it a little bit. Don't go too crazy. Now, my top tip for beef mince, to break it up and make it really smooth, is grab a whisk. Using a whisk, break up the beef mince. This is going to stop any really big lumps from coming in. So just let that cook a bit, pop the whisk to the side, and we're going to use the whisk a few times just to break all the mince up. Give your chicken breast a stir, flip it over, pause it now, it's going to take 2 minutes. So the beef mince is cooked now. As you can see, it is all quite fine, I guess you could say, for mince. I've just got the whisk, and I've just, pushed it through, taken out any lumps that are necessary. Now I have a cold plate. What I'm going to do is transfer the beef mince over onto the plate. This way I'm able to let the beef mince cool a bit before I pack it away, or sort of, turn it into another dish. I like to personally prep like this because this way I can do it in bulk, and I have loads of different protein options. I'm going to place the plate over on my other bench, and I'm going to let it cool a little bit before we get into what we're going to do with it. Don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So the beef mince is done, and the chicken is still going. It is just on sort of a really light rolling boil. This will take about 5 minutes from sort of when it comes back up, like I spoke about before. Once it has completely come to the boil, or a rolling light boil, We then turn it off for 5 minutes and just let it rest in the pot. The residual heat, as it's in a pot of warm water, still cooks the breast all the way through, and that way it stops it from overcooking. So what we're going to do is just turn it all the way down, and now it is good to go. Whilst we're finishing off the chicken breast and waiting for that 5 minutes, we will cook the salmon. So I've got this piece of salmon here. I'm leaving it with skin on. You don't have to do skin, but the same principles apply if you're cooking the salmon with or without skin. We want to get a pretty hot pan for salmon, and we're going to season the top of the fish. Just give it a really good season. Now, using a non-stick pan and a little bit of oil, whichever you prefer, we're just going to spray the pan, and once it's hot, we're going to add the salmon in. You want to hear it sizzle. While it's sizzling, we just need to hold the salmon slightly down. That way the skin doesn't curl up and we're able to keep sort of a nice even layer of salmon. Once you see, I will show you, but you'll see the white of the salmon coming up through here. Once you see that, you can see the salmon is beginning to get heat into the center. When we see it come about a quarter of the way up, this is where we flip it and we finish it off, and we send heat straight back through the other side. That way it just doesn't become overcooked, and then we can ensure that both sides are cooked evenly and the skin stays crispy as well. So I'm going to show you just before I'm about to flip it, and we're going to pull the chicken out as well in a couple of minutes. Pause. So we can see here the salmon has now begun to cook, and we've got that white line. I will show you the salmon now. Now we are able to flip the salmon. The skin is nice and crispy. And we're just going to look for the line to come back up through the center. At this stage here, we can now take the chicken breast out to rest. So grab yourself a bowl and pop that chicken breast in and over to here. So guys, we have finished cooking everything. I just want to show you the beef mince is nice and fine. It's not too chunky. This is a perfect way to cook the beef mince. It's not overcooked and the fat is still there. So when you reheat it, it's not going to go dry. The biggest issue with beef mince is people overcook it, and then when they reheat it, it goes really dry. Now the next thing we have is salmon. We can see a beautiful crisp skin here. It is cooked perfectly all the way through. And what I'm going to do is show you the inside. This is what you want to see. The salmon is still hot, and what's happening is the residual heat is coming all the way back up through, allowing it to, keep cooking, but then not be overcooked. This is a perfect way for the salmon. And then lastly, we have the chicken breast. So the chicken breast is whole like this. I'm going to show you how I carve it. Now, if you are keeping the chicken breast for the next day, keep it whole. But if you're going to have this for lunch, I'm going to show you. So, as you can see on the chicken breast, you've got a bit of sort of extra skin. We're just going to pull off anything that is not needed. A bit of it will pull off. And pop that in the bin. Now, when you're carving the chicken, you don't want to go across the grain. You want to go with the grain. So we're just going to carve it like this. And you can see perfectly white breast. Now I'm going to show you this. It is not overcooked. It is still slightly pink, but doesn't matter that it is slightly pink. It is going to keep cooking. This has some steam going off it, so as you can see, it is perfectly poached. It's exactly what you're looking for, and all straightforward. So here are all your proteins. I hope you enjoyed that, guys. So this is exactly what you want the chicken to look like. It is perfectly poached. You can see a tiny bit of pink, but this is what you're looking for. This means that the chicken is still going to keep cooking sort of as you go, as it's still very warm, and it won't go too dry. Now, when you're heating it again, you know that there's a lot of moisture kept into it, and you can sort of just add any spices or herbs that you want, and it is all perfect. So here we have your 3 proteins. If you can nail cooking your protein, you can definitely make your life a lot easier, and you won't get sick of eating protein. Now that you have all your protein completely prepped and ready to go, I'm going to give you a few tips on how to season it and how to store it. So with the chicken breast, let's say you want to make a curry, leave the chicken breast whole when you're storing it, and then the next day what you could do is make a curry paste and then add the chicken to it. You would then cut the chicken then. This allows the moisture to stay in and it doesn't go as dry. With the beef mince, you just need to ensure when you're cooking it that you don't go overboard, but that will ensure that it doesn't go dry, and then you can add things to the pan whilst you're reheating it or the microwave. Now with the salmon, the same sort of thing. The most important thing with proteins is storing them correctly. If you are to store them wrong, they are going to become dry and they won't taste very nice. So chicken, beef and salmon, or any ingredient that you are cooking, needs to be cooled down first and not put straight into the fridge steaming hot. It doesn't have to be fridge cold, obviously, because it's out of the fridge, but you can just let all the sort of the large amount of heat, that made no sense. You can let you're able to get the majority of the heat sort of, I guess, out of the protein by letting it chill on the bench for a minute. And then we are able to store them. So everything is stored in an airtight container. Salmon is not kept for longer than 3 days, as I don't believe meal prep fish is amazing after 3 days. And then the same with the chicken and beef. Keep the chicken breast whole. Beef mince, just make sure there's not too much fat, just like with the beef sitting in it, as it can go a bit rancid. And then ensure that your fridge is at a really good temperature, that no one's going in and out all the time, and your meal prep should stay really fresh. And then and this way you're ensuring that your meal prep is fresh, delicious, and sort of not overcooked and dry. I hope you enjoyed learning how to prep protein. These are life skills. This is life skills.
These are
life skills. These are life skills.
One more time.
Okay.
Step forward.
Okay, cool. And these are life skills.